Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days. On this glorious Friday morning, we're going to be hitting you up again with another painting tutorial. Today, we're going to be doing yellow. We've barely touched on yellow in the past year. I'm going to show you a completely different approach to yellow. We're not going to use any shortcuts. We're going to do this the hard way. We're going to nurture these colors up from the ground floor. We're going to be using the Vallejo game color series, no airbrush colors whatsoever. So this is going to be kind of advanced for some people, so you're definitely going to want to go back to the archives. Check out the airbrush maintenance video, the hacking video, so you can see some of the techniques I'm going to be using in this video in more detail. This is in compliance with our infinity, like 50 weeks of infinity statement I made way back in the day. Obviously, we've been sprinkling GW in there, and we finished the Pan-Osha infinity list, so now we're going to be changing to the Yu-Jin faction from Infinity. I'm not totally familiar with the names of all the models that we're going to be painting. They're all hard to pronounce, but I do know that this is a big badass looking mech, and he has a sword and he's a baller, and I love his ass. I want to thank my patrons. Patreon has been coming in so clutch. I've said it a million times. We don't do it for money, but it takes money to do this. And I want you guys to know the money matters. And I want to do a quick roll call. I want to shout out Jason, and I want to shout out Brian. You guys came in clutch this month. Anyway, as usual, check out thelongwar.net. It's the fastest growing video library for war games content and hobby material. Let's jump right into this video. Let's do this thing. Simple tricks to paint in yellow. And you can see this baller right here. I think it's called a tag, T-A-G, the Invincible Army, Yu-Jin. These guys are so spexy. Now check these colors out right here. We're going to be using golden yellow, fiery orange, and of course our Vallejo flow improver. Mix it up in the pot. Like I said, check out the videos. We got archived videos on how to do that. And we're going to start base coating this guy. We started with a gray primer, and I used rattle can primer for this guy. The last time we did one of these pewter models, I did Vallejo surface primer, and I'm just showing you guys how you can basically do the same thing with a rattle can. And honestly, I think the enamel that comes out of a spray can is a little stronger than an acrylic. So I did about 5 real light prime jobs with the rattle can, and now I'm going to nurture up this combo color of the fiery orange and the golden yellow. It's about 50-50 mix. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I did it with my eyes. And I'm going to just start layering it up, and I'm going to do multiple thin coats, very subtle, and I'm going to nurture it all the way up because I don't want any runs, I don't want any streaks, I want this to be perfect. And with these pewter models, man, it is so important to nurture these colors up nice and smooth. And there it is. That's after, several thin coats. That's, no exaggeration, 5 thin coats right there. Doing the whole model over and over again. And, sometimes you'll see that you made mistakes on mold lines and stuff as you go. And you gotta just have to fix them as you go, And so here is one more coat. So I'm just gonna show you, I still don't call this done because you saw I was pointing out all those little areas and the nooks and the crannies. There was still some gray showing through there. Even though only the front biggest plates are gonna end up being yellow on this model and the rest of it's gonna be like grays, I wanna hit it all. Now let's move on to the golden yellow. This is 1/2 of the equation we just used. We're going solo golden yellow, and we're going to do the same procedure. We're going to pop those highlights out in the big major panels that are going to remain yellow on this model. A lot of the other undercarriage stuff, more than half of this guy is going to end up being like a non-metallic gray. But I don't sit there and try to, just aim the airbrush at one plate. I'm doing a broad base color here. The more, base coat, the better on a pewter model. So you see that we're nurturing the golden yellow up over this fiery orange golden yellow combo. And that's kind of my secret trick is, if I use 2 colors to build, the base color, then the lighter color of that combo is going to be the next stage highlight. So that's where the golden yellow comes in. This is a slow process. We're going to have to do all these highlights, all these radial highlights and all these big panels. We're going to have to do them several times. 5 times, man. Just nurture them. You let it totally dry, do it again. Let it totally dry, do it again. And these are very thin applications. You want every subtle detail of this model to pop through because these models, their details are subtle, man. It's not like GW with these huge details that you can wash and dry brush. The Infinity lineup is very subtle, very delicate. So you have to, in turn, be very subtle and very delicate with the airbrush process. And you see, we're not even, barely making progress here. You can see it's becoming more yellow, but it's not like changing crazy. So here's how it looks after a few more coats of nurturing that golden yellow up, and we are getting a nice solid highlight there in the centers of those panels, as you can see. Very happy with this, but we want more transition than that. We want this to be a very bright yellow. Now, the Infinity on their website, they use a more mustard yellow. We're only using mustard yellow for the base coat, and like we're going to like a Kill Bill level of yellow here with some big flat panel transitions, because you want some of the dark recesses to still exist, some of the dark panels, because that's how you highlight that gleaming effect in that we'll show in a later video. But here it is, here's another stage of highlighting. Now let's move into the next highlight. Now we're going to take that golden yellow plus moon yellow. So this is that ancient tech I was telling you about. The next stage of highlighting is always going to include the previous stage of highlighting. Golden yellow is now the dark color when it was once the bright color. Moon yellow is now the bright color. So now we're going to reinforce all those highlights again. This is yet again another, possibly 5 passes of just real subtle, incredibly thin highlighting, almost all air trigger, on the double action. This is a very thin paint. We've watered it down. We've used flow improver. We're getting good stick, but very light coverage. Because like I said, you want to nurture it. The last thing you want is a thick buildup in a crack. And like I said, when these crevices and these nooks and these crannies are so subtle that you cannot afford to have them getting, gunked up by paint. It's like I said, it's not GW. GW has incredibly contrasty details on their plastic kits. So let's show you how he looks after a few coats, and he's looking nice and he's looking bright. Those transitions are looking super clean, very natural, but you can see that fresh airbrush transition that we're known for, that hyper realism, that overly fantastic realism. Now, like I said, ancient Chinese technique. We're taking the highlight color and that combo that we used in the previous step, and we're going solo with it. So now it's just moon yellow. Rebuild all those highlights again. And each stage of these highlights, you're not trying to undo what you did before. You're trying to get more focused, more subtle, and you're just trying to build off of the previous highlight to give yourself a transition. We're trying to transition from that orangey yellow all the way to this moon yellow. And we're doing it very classy, very subtle. Like some people would have painted it like that orange yellow and then gone right to moon yellow. That would have been a straight fucking disaster. This is how you do it. Now, there's lots of ways to paint yellow. You can pre-shade, you can use primers, you can use washes. This is one of my favorite tricks right here. This is like the most just fun, subtle transition. Like this is, you control the yellow when you do it this way. We're not going to use any washes, nothing. And he is looking real clean. I'm very proud of these transitions, but we're not going to stop here. We obviously want to get more next level transitions. And you can see every one of those panels now is looking transitioned. So let's do it again. Let's reinforce everything we just did. This is where you really need to pay attention because you're going to get in tight. You're going to focus on those radio highlights kind of directly in the center of some of the panels. You're going to focus on the zenithal on some, which is top down, and you're going to reverse the zenithal on some pattern plates. This is not science. I'm not a scientist. I literally don't know how light works. But I do know what looks fresh and what looks fantastic, and that's what we're trying to achieve here. So I never like to overthink silly things like light source. I just want my panels to look transitioned and fresh, and I want to come back in with a paintbrush later. I want to highlight the ridges of these models, especially the dark ridges with the light color to create that reflective gleam. And we'll do that in part 2 of this video. Today is all about just establishing the airbrush yellow effects. Now, there is one more thing we can do, and that is add a little bit of white to the pot. And here it is. I used just a standard Vallejo game color white, and we added a little bit of white to the pot, and we're going to go in. This is the most subtle of all the highlights. Very close, play it close to the line on this, real tight in center. And there he is. That is all. I turned the lights down. I turned my lighting down on this so he's glowing by himself. The light is half power right now in my Beats laboratory to show you that this guy glows by himself. He is electric. This guy is exactly what I want. Now, this is the final ancient technique. Go in with a pure white. Very watery, real subtle. don't fuck up. Keep the tip clean, brush that tip off, always keep the tip clean, and just establish this tiniest hint of pure yellow in the absolute centers and tops and bottoms of your highlights, depending on where the highlight is, if it's radial on the shoulder pad or if it's zethial on the helmet. And this is how you get that final, just over the top, just pow. There's other tricks you can do. You can utilize yellow as a pre-shade. White as a pre-shade for yellow if you wanted to. And you can go back and do that if you wanted to. But this is a totally different way of doing yellow. This is one of many ways that I enjoy doing yellow. And I am super happy with the outcome here. This guy is electric. Yellow is a hard color to make pop. It's not like blue, like Pan-Ocean, where blue is naturally just a vibrant color. Yellow takes work and takes transitions. And there he is, man. Just visualize all the contrast from the dark black grays inside of it, like in the nooks and the crannies. And then, visualize all the sick highlights over the yellow panels. This guy, love him to death. Anyway, thanks for checking out this video. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.